Okay, so I'm re-recording a reaction video for the past 2 days concerning the Covington Catholic boys. I hope this is the last video I make about this because, yeah, this is taking up way too much time in the national conversation. Obviously, I'm being part of the problem right now. So in the next couple of days, I'm going to get back to some of the other topics, the Venezuela mutiny, for example, as well as Kamala Harris actually declared her candidacy for president. So before I go on with this, please like the video ahead of time, like the video, and share the video, and check me out on these channels over here. Okay, now I'm back. So essentially, I think I have some barbecue sauce on my face, but John Yarmuth is a guy who basically he's I think the only Democrat representing Kentucky in either Congress or the Senate, and he also happens to be the head of the Budget Committee in the House. And after the Covington incident, this is at 7:28 a.m. on January 20th. So January 20th would have been Saturday. He made a what we would call in polite society a rush to judgment and said, I'm calling for a total and complete shutdown of teenagers wearing MAGA hats until we can figure out what is going on. They seem to be poisoning young minds. The conduct we saw in this video is beyond appalling, but it didn't happen in a vacuum. This is a direct result of the racist hatred displayed daily by the President of the United States, who sadly some mistake as for a role model. So he later claimed that he was just joking. Okay, he says a Democratic lawmaker from Kentucky said Sunday he was only joking after he faced intense backlash for suggesting a ban on teenagers wearing Make America Great Again hats. On Saturday, a video of white teenagers wearing Make America Great Again hats surrounding a Native American elder in Washington, D.C. went viral, leading to widespread reports of how the teens, students from Kentucky's Covington Catholic High School, were mistreating the man. So then he said what we just read. No need to go over that again for time's sake. The tweets were ratioed, meaning the number of comments vastly outnumbered retweets and likes, a sign of widespread negative reaction. As the pushback mounted and revelations that there was more to the story, extended video shows a small group of black Hebrew Israelites yelling obscenities at passersby, drawing in the Covington Catholic High School crowd. Yarmuth claimed it was a joke that was being misconstrued by President Trump's supporters. So the first tweet you could maybe say there was a little sarcasm, but the second tweet there's no humor in it. It just says the conduct we saw in this video is beyond appalling, but didn't happen in a vacuum. This is the direct. So he did, yes. The first tweet maybe you can make that point, but the second tweet only reinforces the message behind it. The president's fans seem more upset by my obvious joke about banning hats than they were about when the president said literally the same thing about banning actual human beings. Go figure. Yarmuth tweeted Sunday evening along with an old quote from the president. And if there was any question, I am a passionate supporter of the First Amendment. I will always defend the right to wear MAGA hats, just not the un-American policies they represent. Yarmuth represents the 3rd Congressional District in Kentucky, while the Covington Catholic High School is located in the 4th District. The congressman for the 4th District, Representative Thomas Massie, who, by the way, is part of the Freedom Caucus, and he's one of the staunchest libertarians in Congress, said his discomfort with the initial narrative was why he initially withheld judgment. He also praised the students for their restraint. So then it goes through his reaction. Yeah, I would say that if you live in Kentucky, anywhere throughout the state, it's time to start picketing his office peacefully and saying, how about you represent us instead of pretending to stick up for fake values, things that have nothing to do with your job. These were people who were his constituents. If he would have bothered to do the research, well, they're not exactly his constituents, but in any case, it's like these are people that he is still representing as one of the people who represents Kentucky in Congress. So you know, when you get sent to Washington as a representative for, you know, one district from one state, you have to realize that in many cases the monies distributed to these districts don't really fall along district lines, because a lot of these districts are gerrymandered. So we could take a look at the Kentucky congressional districts, and we'll see exactly how that works. So you see that these are the 4th and the 3rd. So they're not that far from each other. Louisville Metro is the 3rd district. Covington is up here, closer to the, yeah, I'd say closer to Cincinnati. Louisville is over the bridge from Indiana in this case. So these are northern Kentucky districts, and in many cases, I'd probably guess that, you know, the monies distributed kind of would overlap between them. It's not really helping here, so in any case, I would say that we have a need right now for basically people to say to John Yarmuth, okay, you try to use something that has there's nothing good to gain from an incident like this, okay? These were kids. Even if the narrative had been true, what does it say about your state that you have these kids going to Washington? Are you trying to make this like some sort of contest in order to see how bad your constituents are, to prove how good you are? Is that really the intent, John Yarmuth? The people of Kentucky, you know, they pay people to go to Congress to represent their interests, to bring back, I guess, you know, policies that are conducive to the region. You know, Kentucky is a coal-producing region. I'm sure there's a lot of miners who want coal represented there. I personally am not a big fan of coal, but you know, it's something that comes into the mix. Another thing with Kentucky is that they you know, there's a lot of farmland over there. There are you know, it's a state that kind of is struggling with how to exist in the modern economy. You know, there's mining, but in general, it's not exactly a state that is one of the most thriving in the country. I believe the poorest county in the country happens to be one of these rural Kentucky counties that people basically don't make shit over there. So I would say if you live in Kentucky, you should write to Representative John Yarmuth, and I'll show you the information here. Write to him civilly and say, you know, you don't really represent the values of this state, because apparently it's more important for you to show how you stand with your political allies, how you stand with, oh geez, here we go. Over here. So this is his phone number. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the description. I'm sorry. And I'll put his email as well. So I want you to contact him and tell him that he doesn't represent the interests of the people of Kentucky if he automatically dumps on some of the people from there when they get caught in the news doing something that apparently looks wrong. You should investigate before you pass judgment. So that's about it. I know this kind of came through garbled, but it was a little difficult to you know, articulate today. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Find me on all of the other social media right here behind me, and also on Cocoscope and on BitChute. And have a great night.